Alongside Ryan Rishaug. So, Ryan, McDavid got hurt against Columbus 9 days ago. A week ago, the team said he'd be gone 2 to 3 weeks. He was projected to miss as many 10 games. He missed 3 and took the full skate, and now he's ready to come back. So is McDavid Superman, or was this strategic from the Oilers to say he needed more time than he actually did so that we wouldn't pester him about his return?
Yeah, we were sort of thinking the same thing, but, we asked McDavid about it, and he kind of said, well, I don't really know. Like, I'm not part of the media team that puts out the release, how long I'm going to be out. So I don't know. It would make sense, Gino, that if the doctors or the training staff says, look, week to 10, 12 days, something like that, but you never know. It's an ankle. It could react funny. It would be totally normal for the team to look at that and go, well, let's say 2 to 3 weeks. And then if he gets back early, he gets back early. Because the problem is, if you say, he'll be a week, and then he's 14 days, now we're in there like, did you have a setback? How's the ankle? You sure you're okay? Like, that's the way it goes, right? So they kind of err on the side of caution, right? And I think that's what they did here. But we know that McDavid has healed fast from other injuries in the past as well. He puts in tons of work. He puts in tons of work in the off season, and a lot of times that has as much to do with how you recover from injuries as anything. So he's ready to go. The one thing I'll say, Gino, like every time I've seen him on the ice since the injury, he's looked normal. He's looked fantastic. And he's been skating pretty much every day here, and I would assume no setbacks. So he's ready to roll and had a new line today.
Are you going to be, we're going to get to the line in a second, are you going to be watching really closely, though? This is an ankle injury, and McDavid is the best skater in the world, maybe the history of the game. Is everybody going to be watching to see if McDavid can be McDavid at 100% right now, or even McDavid with 80% ankle is good and ready to go? Or how closely are we going to be watching that?
Well, he said he wouldn't be playing if he was at all worried about, if it wasn't quite ready or the potential to be re-injured. Excuse me, Gino. It's funny, like normally when a player gets hurt, we'll ask our camera guy, shoot the injury. So if it's a knee, just, you always see that shot, right? Following the knee and then pan up to the player and then he skates out of frame, and that's nice camera work, right? Well, asking our ace cameraman, Dave Parker, hey, shoot one of Connor McDavid's ankles. That's like, it's all over the place. And it's literally impossible to get a close-up of Connor. So, I've been watching him closely in practice, and there's just no difference, Gino. He's been cutting and pivoting and spinning and doing everything at full speed. He came out today for his media availability in bare feet. There's no wrap. Now, that's not to say he couldn't have taken it off, but I mean, I kind of looked, and I didn't see, the way it looks if a tensor bandage has been on there. So I don't know, some real investigative reporting happening here in the locker room, but he looks fine, and his ankle has looked fine, and he said he feels fine. So let's just take him at his word and see how it goes. But bottom line, with games coming up here against Vegas and Vancouver, to get Connor McDavid back in the lineup for this team right now, with the way things have been going, it's massive for them.
All right, so McDavid's back in. He's obviously on the top line. Talk to me about the new line combos and the domino effect and who gets bumped down the roster.
Yeah, so Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is off to a sluggish start here, right? Hasn't produced much at 5-on-5. He's just got 1 goal on the year, 5 points, I think. It's been sluggish for Nugent-Hopkins, and he spent the bulk of his time on McDavid's left wing. So an adjustment at morning skate today has Nugent-Hopkins bumped down to the third-line center position alongside Adam Henrique and Connor Brown. Very clearly a third line. Elevated is Jeff Skinner, who's got 3 goals this year onto McDavid's left wing. He spent a little bit of time there this season, and it was okay, but I would say that this is a new look for sure. So Zach Hyman on McDavid's right wing, Jeff Skinner on his left wing, and it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, major speed discrepancy there, which we were sort of joking about with Skinner today. I asked Skinner, what's the right way when you're playing with a player as fast as McDavid? And he kind of looked at me like, yeah, I know where you're going with this. I'm slow, he's fast. Like he had this look on his face. He was like, yeah, I know what you're asking me. But he had a little bit of fun with it. But bottom line, it takes some time chemistry-wise for guys to get used to one another, and they haven't played a ton together. So it will be interesting to see Skinner. He likes to shoot. We know that. McDavid can find people. It'll be interesting to see if they can spark any chemistry here with this new look line. And quite frankly, Gino, how Ryan Nugent-Hopkins reacts to his place in the lineup right now being adjusted.
You know what I'm really interested in to see how Leon Draisaitl reacts, because as soon as McDavid went down, you and I were talking about the fact, great opportunity for Draisaitl to really just take control here. And he did pretty
Yeah.
well in the 3 games that McDavid was out. 3 goals, 3 assists. Now McDavid is back into the lineup. How do you think this affects Draisaitl? This Draisaitl's confidence and everything he elevated now, is he able to maintain that? Or does he find himself shuffling back emotionally in what the team needs from him?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think confidence is ever an issue for Leon Draisaitl, but I
Yeah.
totally take your point, Gino, because one of the things we said when McDavid got hurt was they're going to need the best of Leon Draisaitl, right? And not only in his play and production, but leadership, body language, all those things, right? So I've been critical in the past of Draisaitl at times, and he's the first to admit it about himself. Sometimes he gets a little frustrated out there, he gets a little grumpy out there, and he gets the shoulders like going like this on the back check, or, head up in the air, that kind of stuff. Well, we didn't see any of that while Connor McDavid was gone. That was what I was interested to see, was how is Draisaitl going to dial in that part of his game? Because there's just no room for that when Connor McDavid is not going over the boards first, right? And he really, he was the Oilers' best player in 2 out of those 3 games, produced a ton, all the habits were cleaned up. He was really, really good. And so, he's shown his best self now. Tough to regress on that front just because Connor McDavid is back. So I'll be interested to see if Draisaitl, like, hey, you might as well continue on with that attitude. You might as well continue on pushing in that way. I would expect him to, but Draisaitl doesn't lack for confidence whether McDavid's going over the boards first or not.
You know what I'm really interested to see is what happens to the power play now. With McDavid in the power play, in the 10 games he was in, they were around 14%. Awful given all their talent. They were 1 for 5 while he was out. That was just, there's 5 opportunities. It really doesn't say much. They're up at 20%. McDavid's sitting upstairs and watching the last 3 games and watching what the power play was doing. I mean, it's not like we're going to teach Connor McDavid anything, but is there any upside to him being able to sit back and watch to see what the power play's been doing that then makes them more dangerous now that he's back?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and McDavid was actually asked that today, Gino. I think sometimes getting to watch a game from the press box, like, the game is so simple from up there. We all know that, right? It's like, come on, just do that, right? But there is a perspective I think McDavid gained. One of the things he talked about today about the power play was that it's not just so much about shooting the puck, when you get your best opportunities or chances. Retrievals are a huge thing for this power play. And they were exceptional on their retrievals, right? Any sort of contested puck, whether it's off a face-off, whether you shoot a puck on net and there's a rebound and it bounces into the corner. The Oilers were a dominant team on their retrievals for their power play. And I think maybe sitting upstairs, you get a different look at the retrieval game because you can kind of see where it's going to go. You see where everybody is. He talked about that specifically today. He really feels like there's a lot of room for them to improve on their retrievals. And I don't know, Gino, if that's a matter of, a shot comes in from the point and you're standing there watching it instead of having your feet moving towards the net, or, just don't get caught watching as much and just always try and be in motion that way. Whatever the fix is, it's definitely a focus. And you can't help but think, to your point, maybe sitting upstairs watching, that's something you can get a better eye on.
You can't help but think that Vegas is really thrilled with the timing of all this. This is great. McDavid's now healthy. He's rested. And on top of that, he's got 10 goals, 28 points in 20 games versus Vegas. So good luck to Vegas as McDavid makes his return. Thanks, Ryan.